All right, so today we're going to start talking about the project that you will start tomorrow using soft pastels. We're going to be continuing our exploration of animals. That is the subject matter that we're going to use, partially because it works so well to create texture with soft pastel, and partially because most people enjoy making artwork with animals. But we are not going to be doing realistic color for that animal. We're going to be using a color scheme, which is why I've had you practicing a color scheme along with your soft pastels while you've been working on those eye drawings. So we're going to look at a few examples. You'll notice that both pastel drawings feel like a portrait, right? They feel not just like an animal in a landscape, but they feel like, school photos of this cow or cows. So when we're choosing an animal and an animal photo, we want to make sure that we're thinking about what it looks like when it's just kind of its face and neck. Of course, that eliminates for us some animals, right? Just the face and the neck of a snake looks a little funky. The other thing is a lot of times students will want to choose things like a snake or a penguin or a dolphin because it feels like it's going to be easy to draw them. And actually, because there's a lack of like surface details and there's just not a lot going on, you get like no creative wiggle room for creating your drawing when you're doing an animal that's overly simple. And particularly really smooth. And if you make even the tiniest like error in proportion, your drawing just looks kind of funky. So we're gonna avoid any of those animals that are smooth on the surface and don't have a lot of details, like ears. All right, it's a good rule of thumb. Does your animal have ears? Then you can use it. So if we look at these, neither of them is realistic color. They both are using a color scheme. The one on the left, the cow on the left, uses, depending on the light you look the photo at, it's like a red orange and kind of a golden, along with some dark purples or blue violets. So it's a complementary color scheme. It gives us that strong sense of sunlight and shadow. Obviously, there are a couple of other colors added in, so it's not just exclusively the two colors of the color scheme, and that's something that a lot of people don't understand about working in color scheming. You can add a couple of other colors, but we're not like using brown. This is just done in oranges and blue, purple. The same is true for the cow on the right-hand side. We are looking at a split complementary color scheme there with blue and yellow, orange, and red orange. Couple more examples. Both of these examples use an analogous color scheme. The parrot uses an analogous color scheme that includes orange, yellow, orange, yellow, and then expands down into yellow, green. So instead of sticking with the three colors in that color scheme, it bumps down one more color just to kind of include that green moment. You could also think about working on a green sheet of paper, right? And that would give you that green. The cat is also an analogous color scheme, and it uses yellow, green, and blue, green. And that cat was created on a red sheet of paper. So that little bit of red that you see kind of glowing through in areas, that's the impact of the surface color. Just like you worked with your eye drawings on a colored sheet of paper, you'll also be working on your animal drawing on a colored sheet of paper. And I have kind of a variety of colors for you to choose from. Two more examples. Again, you'll notice that it's basically just the face and the neck of the animal. The monkey on the left side of the screen is done using a complementary color scheme. But those complementary colors, so it's blue and orange, but rather than use a really bright blue and a really bright orange, there is a dullness or a darkness to the blue and kind of a dullness to the orange as well. And so this would be like kind of that orangey, kind of rusty orange, almost an orangey brown that I have in those pastels to give. And then this is, you know, a fairly realistic interpretation actually of this animal using oranges and blues. If you look carefully, you can see that blues have been put up in the shadows of that monkey, and that's what has created those nice deep darks. The Labrador on the right-hand side is also a complementary color scheme using the same two complementary colors, orange and blue again, but they have chosen to use the brighter version, like it's like kind of a bright turquoisey blue and a bright almost yellow orange tone to show the contours on this chocolate lab. So you are going to be choosing a color scheme to work in and choosing an animal to work in. So we're going to review the color schemes that you can choose from. So the first color scheme that you can choose is the analogous color scheme. Analogous colors are 3 colors that are side by side on the color wheel. So any 3 colors that touch each other is an analogous color scheme. Next is a complementary color scheme. Complementary colors are any 2 colors that are directly across from one another on the color wheel. Complementary colors are going to give you kind of the brightest contrast in your work, particularly if you use bright versions of both of the colors. But interestingly enough, when complementary colors mix together, they do make brown or gray or black. And so you do also get a really lovely dark when you mix these 2 together. They neutralize each other. So you would get the capability to create very, very bright color, but also very, very dull or dark color by using a complementary color scheme. The next option is a split complementary color scheme. This gives you 1 additional color and gets you a 3-color color scheme rather than a 2-color color scheme from the complementary colors. It gives you a little bit more contrast because these colors won't mix together and make the same kind of neutral that just the straight complementary color scheme will. So you can see instead of just yellow and purple, which would be the normal complementary, it's a split complement. So I'm using my yellow with red violet and blue violet, the example on the screen. So it would be any of those. So if I wanted to use blue and orange as a split complementary, I could do that one of 2 ways, right? I can use my orange with blue violet and blue green, so like turquoise and blue violet and orange, or I can use my blue with yellow orange and red orange. So there are always 2 versions of that split complementary color scheme. So the one on the screen is yellow and red violet with blue violet. I could choose instead to go the opposite direction and use my purple with yellow orange and yellow green. Okay, so obviously the colors that I pick will give me a little bit different kind of feeling. You have to think about the emotional impact of the colors you're choosing as well. The 4th color scheme that you can pick from, so you need to pick one of these 4, is a triadic color scheme. A triadic color scheme is any 3 equally spaced colors on the color wheel. So you can see the example that's on the screen is yellow, green, red, orange, and blue, violet. And there are 3 colors we didn't choose in between. So it's pick a color, skip 3, pick a color, skip 3, all the way around the wheel until you have 3 colors. It's important to note that I've given you an example on the color wheels on the screen, but those aren't the only versions of that color scheme. I could shift this color scheme and do yellow, red, and blue. I can do green, orange, and purple. I could do, you get the idea. Like you can choose the colors you like, and have them fit into the scheme. You do want to make sure that you're choosing the color scheme. I recommend you can practice a little bit with a color scheme and some color choices in your sketchbook if you are kind of waffling on what color scheme to use. So today in class, you need to find an animal photo to use for your portrait. This is an awesome opportunity for you to create a portrait of an animal that's in your life, right? Take a photo of your cat, or look in your phone for a photo of your cat or your dog, your bird, your horse, your fluffy creature at home. The other option for you is that you need to use a copyright-free photo website. We cannot just go to Google and find a reference photo and copy that photo exactly for our work. It violates United States copyright law. So I can't just go to Google and type in tiger and use that whatever tiger photo I find there. I have to make copyright-free image choices when I'm making my artwork. So Morguefile is a website that I can search like Google, and it's full of photographs intended to be used by artists in their artwork. So I know that those images are copyright-free. I know that I can use them in my artwork. So if you want to do something like a tiger, obviously you probably don't have a photograph of a tiger unless you've been to the zoo recently. You're going to be using Morguefile. There is a link to Morguefile in Google Classroom. So you can find your photo there. You probably will have to crop your photo, right? If we think back to all the examples in the PowerPoint, or if you look back to them, they don't have a lot of background. It is just the animal fairly up close, without a lot of extra background space. So you do want to make sure that you're thinking about cropping that photo once you download it, or even a photo from your phone. If it's, your dog in the living room, you're gonna want to crop out most of the living room. You're then also going to choose a color scheme and identify the colors that you're going to be using in your work. And that you can noodle around with a little bit today in your sketchbook and explore, like, what would it look like if I used orange and blue? Or maybe what would it look like if I use a triadic color scheme? What colors would I pick? You can then, if you want to, edit your photo. So there's a free photo editing tool called Pixlr that you can use. It works on your Chromebook. Or maybe you have a photo editor in your phone where you can change the colors a little bit. So if you would like your photo to be at least hinting in the colors of the project you want to do, you can kind of play around with editing that photo today so that it has the colors that you want. Once you have figured all of that out, once you've chosen your animal, you've cropped the photo, maybe you've edited it for color, you're going to upload that photo to Google Classroom. The other thing that you're going to do today is, if you haven't quite finished up those 4 eye drawings, you can go ahead and give those a finish today in class, making sure to upload those on the assignment. So both things are due by the end of class today. Your eyes with the practice color schemes and your reference photo to use for this project. So have a great day. I will see you all tomorrow.